Hi, so today we are exploring the another step in our Jira exploration. In the previous video, we learned how to create a free account for 10 team members at Atlassian's, and I am hoping that you have your account ready. In this video, we will explore how to get started with your product backlog. Now, before doing anything, let's check the account which we created in the previous video and see the space where we can go and start working on product backlog. Kapil, you may want to start from the first step, a login itself. Let's go to the same URL. And people who are watching, and if you have already created, you can follow with your own login as well. Whatever free account you have created yesterday, you may start from, or a previous video, maybe today itself, and now you want to start with the same. Okay, let's start with the login. So if you use your Google account, you can log in with your Google account as it was the case before. Now, once you are here, you can see your project, which you created probably by using the previous video. And it's a software development project. We use a Scrum template for it. And now we want to explore creating a product backlog around it. So the first thing you need to go to the backlog section. Maybe Kapil, you want to point out a little bit carefully or slowly that yes, there is a section which is called backlog. Here you have to go. Now, what is this backlog or a product backlog? In the Agile way of working, in a Scrum way of working, all the things which your team is expected to do at some point in time are part of backlog. There is no clear date assigned to all the items, but they are added and then they can be prioritized in the future. So by using Jira, you can maintain your backlog. Yeah. Okay, so create an item into the backlog. So we need to create an item inside it. So as you have learned, the term issue is used just to give a common element, which is a work item, which goes into the backlog. And there could be various types of issues, and these types can be created by yourself. Yeah, you can get it configured at a later stage. If you are new, you can just start with a story type of issue, which is by default there. We have created another one, which is enabler. We will show you how possibly you can probably create that. But let's create some stories in the backlog. So let's go ahead and create a story inside it. Now, as you have learned, the story is a small piece of requirement, small slice of requirement, which can be implemented quickly. So you may need to talk about what is a statement of that particular story. Now, here comes that what are the examples we are taking to learn about the product backlog. So let's take a pause. So we have one case study document, and the reference link is available in the description, which helps you to explore something called a case study where we are creating a solution for Wow hotels. Yeah. So we can stay there. Yeah, no. So this is a location, but these location URLs, we will definitely share it in the description itself. So, but yeah, you can go to Ogil and go into the resources section and download it. There is a user story examples, you can find it, but we can go back to our Jira interface now. Yeah. So you can download those things. So there is a website which is helping the travelers to book their various travel related needs. And we are focusing on economic travelers, backpackers kind of travelers. And it is primarily targeting the hotels which are low cost, but they are situated in various tourist places. So that's the kind of a business model we are looking for. We have personas like solo travelers. We talk about female solo traveler, male solo traveler. We have a group travelers. We have a vacationers, domestic vacationers, and we also have our own personas who are like marketers who also want to use this particular site. So now so we can start again and focus on that. Okay, how do we create a user story? So we can say we click on the backlog and add story there. So we need to add story. Maybe you can delete this first level of story and go one by one. So we need to create a story. Yeah. So create issue means creating an element, selecting the type story here. Summary, we can say as a solo traveler, as a solo male traveler, I want to look for options available for airport pickup and drop. Yeah, to identify the right hotels for my need. Yeah, that's any made up requirement. Then you can go further and say, yeah, what are these things? Now here we take a simple small pause. You can just have user story without having anything else. But in Jira, you can also use grouping in the form of epics and themes. And the word used here is a component. So component can be seen as that, okay, in which area this works in, and this grouping can be used for your future reporting and filtering purpose. So we are saying that, we have a component like web interface, analytics, and admin interface, just as a optional way of organizing your backlog further. And we are mapping this particular story into the web interface. Yeah. And this can be created, components can be created and maintained in the Jira space. So you can select that particular thing. Then you can go further. Yeah. So if you don't want to select initially, you can go without components also. There is no problem. If you have some wireframes or other test data attached to it, you can use attachment. You can browse a file and add to it here. And description, you may want to add it right now or later as a part of your backlog refinement process. You are more detailed about the user stories, especially the acceptance criteria related to the user stories may come into the description space. But initially, you may want to just add a story for future conversation and maybe refining it at a later stage. So that's something you can do. So we can just save, and we will talk about the other fields sometime later because they help you in managing the backlog better. So we will talk about in this video only how do we manage our backlog better. But as of now, we are only focusing on creating the item in your backlog, which we call it story. Yeah. So here you have your first story created in your backlog. So as of now, you are just having the backlog items. Yeah. But in order to take this little further, we need to have some more sample stories, I guess. We can't just go with the one story and create thing. So for just to speed up the demo process, we have created some file and we want to upload it from those tag files, the user story. And that's another way to see that user story can be imported from some CSV file as well. But you may want to explore import feature later, but here we are just doing it in order to get a data for our test or a demonstration purpose only. It will take some time before we have it ready. So we just need to pick up a file. There is a mechanism of mapping the files columns with the fields which we have in our element of a story. And then once we do it, we can just focus on what is a delimiter and how the other things will work. And finally, we can just map the fields which are there in the file. So these 4 fields which you see are the fields which are there in the CSV file. We are just mapping it with the Jira fields. Yeah, whenever you want to do import kind of a feature. Sometime when you are doing backlog refinement workshop by using some other tools, you may be comfortable with Excel, but finally you have a set of user story which you want to import, and this is something can help you to do it. Yeah, that's how simply you can learn about doing importing. Again, I'm not expecting on the day one of your Jira usage you will start using import, but yeah, that's just a thing to focus on there. Yeah. Okay, so we see a message, 10 issues got imported successfully. So which means we have a 10 stories got added in our backlog. If I go in my backlog, now I should say 11 items, 1 item which I have created before, and the 10 items which has been added right now. So I can go to my backlog and see it here. So here are your backlog items. Good. So now we go into the details of these user stories and try to understand how we can work with them. What are the things which we can do with our backlog? So what do we do? Once we have a backlog, first thing is the list of items. So you can see that, yeah, I can create the list of items and these lists can be created. There are attachments attached to it, but what else I can do? So there are few things which can make this backlog management activity better. Let's go and learn about things like related issues, cloning, as well as some priorities and other things which are linked with a particular issue. So we click a particular issue and get into the details. So here we have a particular user story. You might have already got it. Sometimes you can also call it an issue. It's a type of item which is a user story. So you see an option called link issue. So when you click on a link issue, that allows you to do a various types of linking. Yeah. So which means you have 11 items as of now in your backlog, and you may want to say or show that some of the items are interrelated. Or maybe possibility some of items are interdependent. I can only do this when this item get done. And there could be some kind of a hard interdependency also, which is also known as a blocked by. So for example, if I want to say this is a blocked by a particular issue, so I can select a linked issue which is a blocked by, and then I can select an issue which probably blocking it. Yeah. And I can search and find all those my items here, and I might be having more than one item which is blocking it. So there could be dependencies where multiple items need to be finished before this item gets done. You can use typing also to find out your particular story. You can use the drag drop option, and you can add more than one. And finally, when you click a link, it will show you as a part of linkage. So whenever you go into this particular user story in detail, you can see this thing coming again and again. And you can also remove the blockage. Once this blockage is done, you can maintain it for your future work. So this is one of the activity which you might do as a backlog refinement process. Yeah. So relating the issues, maybe we can pick up a new issue and see how do we create splitting of the user stories. So as you learn that user stories also need to be splitted, explored, and refined. So once you have a particular user story, you may want to make it more item. You may want to create 3 stories out of it. So by using this particular interface, you can also get into creating a duplicate clones. Yeah. So it's like that I have something, I want to create a clone, and maybe I want to change little bit of description, and then I can change the rest of the part. So it can make the creation of or a splitting of a user story from a type perspective faster, because you can just create more and more clone and update it. You can update the previous clone also, previous source of that particular user story also. If you want, you can also show them as a related stories by again linking those issues by clicking that they are related. They are not blocking each other, but they are linked with each other, so that sometime when you are working on a particular requirement, you can see all of them together. So you have a cloned feature also in this particular space. So if we just take a stock, what we have done, we created the user stories in our backlog. Quickly, we also imported some of the user story in our backlog. We can go to a backlog view, Kapil. Yeah, we can go to a backlog view overall. Yeah. So the clicking on a backlog will take you to the backlog view. That's something you can see it in a pretty much detail. We can remove the sprint one item so that it is not confusing us. Yeah, something this can be removed. Yeah. So it keeps everything in the backlog only. So we have just wanted to make sure that we just focus on backlog right now. We have not yet started focusing on sprints. That's why we removed that particular item. So here you have a backlog. You can see it. You can add more stories to it. You can use clone feature to it. And you can also see a related feature to it. Now, sometime you may have a different type of items in your backlog. Yeah. Say in a simple way, you may have a spikes and enablers, or you may have a user stories. So you can say there is a user-oriented work and there is a technical-oriented work or an enabler-oriented work. So how can I differentiate that? One of the possibility is you need to create different type of work item. Yeah, okay, Kapil, let's show the different type of work items. So we have configured different type of work items. Like for you, one is enabler and another is a story. Enabler is, say, I want to do a proof of concept for single sign-on, for example. I says POC for a single sign-on or something like that. That's my enabler. I create. I may not want to attach and more details about it, and I can just create click a create button, and that is done. You know that this is something, a new type of enabler item here. Now you might be wondering, okay, this is, I understand, but what is the difference? So one of the way you can a little bit observe here is there are different icons used. So you see there is an icon for story and there is an icon for enabler, and they are different. So they are usually showing you what kind of items you have inside your backlog. And these icons can be configured. So that's a configurable option to show you a different type of work items differently. Yeah, so that's the another thing. Now, how can I create more these work items, work item types? You can do that. Maybe you need to connect with your administrator to do it. We are not just mixing the administration part here. We are mainly focusing from a usage part here. So you may want to talk to the person in your organization space to create it. If you are the one who are using it, maybe later on we will also teach how to create these things separately. Yeah. So that's the separate thing we can do. Now, what do you do other than this in your backlog refinement? You may want to do estimation. You may want to do prioritization. So let's learn about the estimation, how the estimation of a particular item is done. Or if you have played a planning poker, where do you put the estimate number in the user story? Yeah, so we do that. Okay, so there is a field. So by clicking on more fields, you can see the other fields which are associated with user stories. In a implementation, you can add your own custom fields also. Yeah, that is also possible with the help of configuration and all. But as of now, you have a story point as a number, and you can put that particular thing, and you can also say, you know, this is something we are adding, and in a story point space, you can confirm it, and that is how your number will get stored. So that's the number and the estimate, which you can also update here. Looks like we have a separate field for original estimate. If I'm right, yeah. What is this original estimate, Kapil? Yeah.
So actually, we can estimate in two ways. One is the story point estimation, and if we have some subtasks, so this original estimate would show us like what is the club effort of all subtasks.
Okay.
And the story level.
Okay. So once the story will start getting the subtask, the accumulated estimation which is coming on those subtasks will automatically come here. Whereas a story point estimation is a manual estimation or a number which we are uploading here. Great. So yes. Now maybe when you have a product backlog, you want to discuss that particular product backlog in your backlog refinement meeting. You might play a planning poker, and based on whatever the team has agreed as a different number to those thing, you can put it into the story points also. Yeah, so that's that done. So what we have learned, how to create a user story, how to split a user story, how to make user story related in Jira, and how to put an estimation in the user story. Let's talk about prioritization. Yeah, where do we put a priority number in the things? So same interface, you can see a priority. So you can define the various priority levels. Yeah, usually the less the priority, the less the confusion. But yeah, the software allows you, so you can have a 5 level of prioritization or 3 level of prioritization. And based on your backlog refinement discussion, you can also put a prioritization here. So for example, we want to make this particular user story highest, for example, and that is something we can also do it. Yeah. So go back and come back to the main view of the backlog. So this is how your backlog looks like. We are refreshing it to show you some of the details or changes which we have done. And here possibly you can also see these two important information. One is that it is showing a number which is showing the story point, and a small icon which is also showing you the different priorities. Now gradually you will start recognizing them. Initially it may look too small, but you can see the difference in the icon, and that visually tells you how these things are different. Yeah. Now, once you are doing your product backlog refinement, you may have a multiple items, and some of the items are ready enough, means they are ready for upcoming sprints planning. So how possibly you can mark ready to it? So one of the possibility is you can create a status for your work item, which will say to do or a backlog to start with, and the next stage could be ready. So that's something you can do. Or you can also use some other filtration criteria like labeling. But we recommend you better use the status stage, where you can say these are the items which are ready to go. So let's explore how to mark some of the items ready. So we pick up a one user story again, go into the details, and you can say on top of it, you have a to do, in progress, ready, and done. So it is like if you are visualizing it, you can visualize it as your Kanban board. So it's like the to do is something which is coming as a first entry. The ready could be the items which has been discussed in your backlog refinement meeting, and they meet, if you have an agreed definition of them, they meet the agreed definition of ready, not done, definition of ready, which, or you may have an understanding of readiness by way of sizing and adding the acceptance criteria. And whenever those items starts meeting the definition of ready, in case you have a defined one, you can move it to the ready stage. Yeah, so that's something you can do. Now, you might be wondering why I'm doing it. Just to identify out of say 20, 30 items, which all items are good for my upcoming sprint. So as a product owner or as a team members, you might be discussing the upcoming sprint, which may start after 2 days, and you may want to only see the items which are ready enough, which are refined enough for our upcoming iteration. So let's see how the possible use of this ready status we can do in the backlog. So how possibly we can filter. If Kapil, I just want to filter the ready piece.
For that, we have to put this kind of filter over here. This is the temporary filter, and we can go to board setting and create quick filter.
Okay.
Here we can say status is equal to ready. And we can put the name of
say ready. Yeah, ready items. We can say ready items. Now we can say add the same description if it is there. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so
we can move to backlog.
Now you can see this ready story filter visible in your backlogs. That's there. And incidentally, you also end up seeing how possibly these kind of filters can be created by using jQuery. So briefly, you touched upon. If it is confusing right now, don't worry. You may learn about these features later, or you may explore with your administrator about it. But the idea here is we just want to show how possibly you can manage your backlog using Jira. So you created the status, you created the filter, and if I click here, I can only see those stories which are ready, and that can help me in managing my conversations. So it's possible that when I as a product owner, I am running a backlog refinement meeting, I may have a 50, 60 items in my backlog. I may just want to have a mechanism to only show something with the help of a status. Now, similar thing can also be done by way of using labels also. So say you may want to have a quick meeting, and you may don't want to talk about all the issues, but there are type of issues which you want to discuss. You can label them as a product owner, all those issues, and only talk about those issues separately. That's also a possibility. You can again click, which can reset the current filter. Yeah. So here we are learning a little bit about label, that what is all label is, because it helps you in managing your backlog. So yeah, you can see the labels. Yeah, maybe to discuss, or like you may want to have to discuss or something like that, today or tomorrow, whatever it is, and you may want to create these kind of things. So you may not have a space. You may have a 2 - discuss or something like that. Yeah, and those kind of things can be there, and then you can apply the filter. We are not looking at the filter application. Just wanted to let you know that this is how also possibly you can manage your backlog in Jira. Okay, come back to the Jira main view. So you have learned how to create story. You have learned how to create enabler. You have seen how the enablers and story may look differently. You have learned how to put a story point number. You also have learned how to put a priority and how to see priorities differently. You have learned how to categorize your work based on the readiness. These all things have been done. Now what we are going to explore, how to map some of the user stories inside the epic. So you may have a large initiative which might be giving the direction or a view to multiple user story. And for the management of reporting and some purposes, you want to have those user stories or collection of user stories seen as a group, yeah, as a child of that epic. If you want to do that, you can do it. Here, Kapil can show you how to do a bulk user story assignment to an epic. You can do it in the beginning also, but yeah. So what you have done, you have selected the user story. You have went to a particular epic. You have seen these epics should be created before, and then you can pick up an epic and just save it. Yeah, that's the simple thing which you can also do there. Yeah, great. We come back to our backlog, and you probably refresh it here, and you can start seeing those things, the epic mapping related information as well in your backlog. So there is a nice indication which comes here. And if you have this indication, which kind of shows you a label associated with that particular user story, that, yeah, okay, this is something which belongs to that particular epic. You can do other user story assignment as well. We can learn how to do it in a bulk, yeah, just like that. So we can say advanced issue search, and maybe you put up some search criteria and then assign them. So here, maybe you want to focus on all the stories probably and search them, bulk change all 12, and possibly you may want to assign them to a, so you can deselect some of it if you want to, and then you take an action, and that can help you in doing bulk assignment there. You want to edit any field, so that's a possibility for labels, etc., also. And you can change the priorities and fix the other details as well, change the component as well, and change the epic as well. So if you have a multiple stories or work items which needs to be changed, you can use the bulk change feature. And here we are demonstrating it with the help of changing it for the epic assignment. So this bulk change feature is a very interesting and powerful tool for you as a product owner to manage your backlog, product backlog in a Jira. Yeah, that's something you can also focus on. It can show you, you may need to have a proper rights to do all these things, but yeah, that's there is a possibility of doing the bulk assignment of the bulk edit of the.
For this, you need a bulk change permission, global permission to do these kind of activities.
Yes.
So now we have in backlog these 7 stories have now you can say epic link.
Are linked to a particular epic. Yes. Okay, so this is something also we have seen. There is also a mechanism of putting some color to differentiate something. Yeah, so do you want to show the color feature as well, Kapil, to manage the backlog? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we can change the color based upon these different fields, based upon issue type, based on priorities, based on assignees, or if we want to put some custom queries as well. So let's see based upon priorities, because issue type already have icon different. So that is already indicated over there. So by changing this color, it's a small indicator, not a big one, but still indicator is there. Like for high priority, we have this red one, and for other one, this light color is there. We can change this color as well if we want. So these are the indicators.
Perfect. So like better to have little contrast color so that you can visually see it, but that's another feature to see visually your product backlog in a more informative way. So color, epics, and you can also use it for theme version, which we call it component. We are not getting there. Component, and there is also a mechanism of planning releases. You can also identify which all product backlog item goes into particular release, but I think that will make the topic a little bigger. So we just stick to the whole piece which is related to the product backlog. So with your free version, get started, create items in your backlog, put the various kind of details to it, try to see, put an estimation, change the priorities, see how can possibly you can create multiple issues out of it, assign some of them into epic, create epics for that in before you may play with the labels, see how various filter works. And if you have all these things handy with you, you know how to manage your product backlog using Jira in a most effective way. We do help you in case you get stuck somewhere. Just let us know because there are issues. There could be things which may require a little bit of administration work, because we can't give you the complexity attached with administration in this particular video. But if you are learning or if you are using for your organization, you may get started and then explore the administrative piece on your own, or drop us an email for your consulting or a configuration related needs if you have any.